Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and I'm again today joined by Elise Peck, who was talking to us earlier in the podcast season about sexual energy. Welcome back, Elise.
Hi, Magic. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Now, Elise, this is episode 47 of A Magical Life, and today we are talking about all things polarity. Now, polarity, you just mentioned to me, is creating chemistry and attraction. Can you tell us more about what that means?
Yes. So basically, for attraction with anything, you need two ends of a magnet. You need a negative force and a positive force, or a masculine force and a feminine force. And this is really, I'm really passionate about this because it is what kind of saved my marriage. And you know, I think I've heard various people say, I believe Tony Robbins has said that relationships don't end due to lack of love, they end due to lack of polarity. And polarity is really the masculine and feminine dance. And it's the dance that actually creates two people being attracted to each other. And really having the attraction between you is the difference between just being mates and being lovers, or being partners, or being life partners, or being a married couple. And so if we lose the polarity, we lose the whole kind of thing that makes the relationship that special romantic relationship. And basically it's about becoming aware of who's in the masculine pole, who's in the feminine, how to nurture those two things, and how to bring that tension, the attraction, the spark, the chemistry back into the relationship so that both people actually feel it. They're not faking it, that they both actually feel the attraction for each other and they're not repelled by each other, rather they feel a force toward each other.
Great. Now, when people are in a relationship, they can often get quite comfortable in that, like an old hat or an old sock. Is that because the polarity is not on, like it's off kilter?
Yeah, look, yes and no. There's a few elements to this because, so my husband and I have been together nearly 15 years, and we are super comfortable together. So, I mean, like, he's seen it all. Like, he's seen me give birth. There is like nothing that is uncomfortable around this person. We're very comfortable. But there is a dynamic where, yes, comfort does ruin the polarity. So it's about the awareness of, within that comfort, am I being the masculine or am I being the feminine? And you do have to learn the habits. And eventually those habits become natural, normal, and who you are. And then it becomes really comfortable again. But if the polarity is gone, you do have to relearn some things. Or learn some new stuff and bring a different dynamic into it. And eventually that feels comfortable in its own way again. Look, let me start with this analogy. When we're talking about polarity in relationship, a great analogy is to imagine the female egg, the feminine egg, and the male sperm. And you always want in the relationship someone to be acting as the sperm and someone acting as the egg. So you want someone as the attractive force, as this thing in her glow. She's blossoming. She's glowing in her essence. She's alive with passion. She's turned on by life. She's healthy. She's radiant. And she's there glowing. And there is a masculine energy that wants to win, run toward, get this egg. And in any interaction with your partner, you want to be thinking, am I being the egg or the sperm, right? And this applies to same-sex relationships. You need someone to be more in the feminine, someone to be more in the masculine. And, you can figure out which one you are. Like, do you like to be penetrated or do you want to penetrate? Basically, now you know which one you are. And if you are the feminine energy, it's like, okay, am I leaning forward? Am I running toward? Am I chasing this person and therefore repelling them? Or am I just blossoming into my best self, which becomes an attractive force for the masculine? So what happens is often at the start, there'll be this radiant feminine energy, and then there'll be a masculine energy that's drawn towards it and pursuing. And then once the masculine sort of feels like it's locked in, and once the feminine feels like she's attracted. So at the start, the feminine might be like, oh, I don't know. You have to kind of, am I interested? And then when she decides, often it turns, and then they attach. And what happens at that point is the more that the masculine cares for the feminine, the more estrogen he gets and the less testosterone, and the more he actually starts to kind of be a bit more feminine in the relationship. And what happens is when the feminine attaches, she starts to love the masculine in a way that actually a feminine likes to be loved. So she'll start caring and doing all this stuff and all this, and she'll sort of be really coming toward him and nurturing him, almost like in a motherly role, because that's how she receives love. And she's like, I love this person, I'm going to treat them how I would want to be treated, which actually doesn't work in polarity. It's the golden rule doesn't work. It's I think Harville Hendricks and Helen McCallie Hunt, two famous psychologists who've written a famous book called Getting the Love You Want, which was like a #1 bestseller for years. They said the golden rule stinks. You don't treat in love, you don't treat others how you want to be treated. You treat them how they want to be treated. So the feminine has to treat and love the masculine in a totally different way that she would treat anyone else that she, a woman that she loves. But people get this wrong. They're kind of like, oh, something I often hear is, she's like, a client will say, oh, he made an effort, so I decided to cut off all other men in my life and whatever and just go all in, and I really wanted to make him feel really secure. Now, the feminine wants to feel secure. The masculine wants to feel challenged. You need a little bit of a gap for him and a little bit of a challenge for him, and that actually helps build his testosterone. It makes him feel alive. He actually enjoys it. But until we just understand these certain dynamics, each will start loving the other how they want to be loved, and then it depolarizes, and they become sort of buddies that I believe it was in the book David Dieter, The Way of a Superior Man. I believe he said or maybe it was Dear Lover, that you just become buddies that occasionally rub genitals together rather than having what so many people that come to me crave, which is a great dynamic where you actually want to be intimate with your partner. Both people do. It's not like a chore for at least one person. Yeah.
Great. Now, how would this apply to the self? So it's great having a partner, but obviously, and this is whether you're in a traditional relationship, a same-sex relationship, no matter what. Yes, it's great having a partner, but what if you don't have that relationship with yourself? Can there be a self-polarity issue?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, a lot of people come to me single, and actually it all starts with the self. It all starts with the self. The only reason that my husband and I fixed our polarity is because I went first. I realized that there was a lot in me. I was in a rock bottom, just in every single way. And I went on this journey to kind of heal myself. And in that realized that I had taken on what's called a lot of masks of masculinity, which basically can just call it fear. And that as I have an authentic feminine core. So everyone has an authentic core, where they've got an authentic masculine core, authentic feminine. I have an authentic feminine core because it appeals to me to be penetrated. I don't have a desire to go penetrate anyone. So the more that I get more to my authentic self, the more and more feminine I've actually become. And it's this reference of there's actually the flame of your authentic self inside of you, and anything that is blocking that, whether you're the masculine or feminine, is actually fear. And so the more as a feminine or a masculine, the more that you peel away and do a lot of healing and come back home to your natural polarity, your authentic polarity, the more you become in harmony with life. So the more I started attracting clients, the more I started attracting abundance, the more I started attracting just love from life, because I was in my feminine energy. So I didn't even do it for the relationship. I went on a journey to heal myself, and noticed and found out along the way how, like two ends of a magnet, when I moved, it moved my partner. This doesn't always happen. So what can happen is someone moves their polarity and they just outgrow, and the dynamic no longer works for them because the other partner doesn't shift, right? But for a single person, what they find is that so I've got clients, and the quality of person they attract in completely changes, completely. They're mind blown, and then we have to work at getting them familiar with receiving healthy love. So before, if they were more in the masculine energy, chasing a guy, take a woman, for example, a straight woman, for example, if she was more pursuing men or really trying to be sexy and get attention and really trying to show and prove what a great partner she was going to be, and, just so goal oriented on getting that relationship, she would kind of get men more in the feminine, that she would have to win. And they were more manipulators. They were more, they would kind of see her desperation and mess with her, kind of be hot and cold, come back and forth. And the chemistry wasn't great. And it was just a mind, she kind of felt like she was always running after love and wanting love. And it was more like she was more into the intimacy, and she was a chaser. She was a pursuer in this dynamic. And it was painful for her, because she was like, what is going on? Like, why is there not a man adoring me? And she came to me just after a breakup. She was recovering. So the guy had broken up with her, and she felt a real addiction to him. She could not stop thinking about him, the pain of the breakup. She could not move on. She was just up. And she worked with me, and we just completely changed her polarity. She started saying it's raining men, they're dropping at her feet. And then she met a guy who she said, it's like I've manifested this man. And she's like, I can't believe it. He's driven 2 hours. He just turns up. He's chasing after me. She's like, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to try. It just works. He wants to chase, and I don't. It's just, and now she's getting this adoration, this love that she always wanted. And he is also feeling satisfied. They're both very satisfied in this dynamic, because she has authentically gone to her feminine energy and then attracted in a masculine energy who authentically likes the chase, and it just works. So for single people, whether you want a relationship or not, it puts you more in harmony with life. As the masculine, it makes you, the more masculine you become, the higher testosterone, the more mission driven, the more purpose driven, the more you go out, the more you penetrate life. That means you're going to go out and feel more satisfied with your offering to the world, your service to the world. You'll step more into your purpose. You'll show up just in this way that feels really good in your body, more powerful. You step into your power, whether you're single or not. And the feminine, what that means is she opens and lets kind of life penetrate her a bit more. And that openness and that trust allows people, opportunities, connection, friendships, relationships, opportunities. She becomes far more magnetic and lives in a flow state where things aren't as hard. Everything flows. So it's not just about getting the love you want. And in fact, I'm almost pleased when people actually often come to me wanting the love, and partway through their journey, they decide they no longer want it. You see it in testimonials. People say, I've been working with Elise, and it was actually a self-love journey, and I realized I know, and this is a great place. True love and the best love comes when you actually kind of don't actually need it anymore, because you've come to this wholeness within yourself. You've come to this embodiment of the masculine and feminine within yourself, which happens the more you peel away what you're not, and the more you come back to your authentic self. Having said that, you can't just heal. You also need the blueprint of what healthy love looks like, because otherwise you've got no idea how you're tracking. And for example, like if you don't know what someone who trusts their partner looks like, you won't have the awareness that you're not really trusting, or if you don't know what the dynamic of someone who gets their needs met without criticizing looks like, you don't realize that you're being critical. So there is the healing, the self-healing, and the returning to love yourself, but there's also the awareness of what healthy love looks like, of what polarity in relationships look like, of what secure attachment looks like. And if you don't have it, likely you didn't see it in your family, and likely if you haven't had it, you've been attracted to relationships and friendships your whole life that haven't necessarily had secure attachment. So it's actually going to be quite foreign and be strange, which is where the awareness of it comes in. It's a long answer.
It was a long answer, but it was so important to hear. So just recapping that, in relation to yourself, it's loving yourself is the pivotal point where you can then step off to have a healthy relationship or just keep developing the relationship with yourself. And that is so important for your health. Now, here we talk about wealth as well, physical, spiritual, or emotional wealth. Now, wealth, Elise, when you have this understanding of polarity, you create your own personal wealth, don't you?
Yeah, yes, yeah. And so just to address your last point, it absolutely is a journey of self-love. And yeah, I almost could just come out and say this is a journey of self-love. However, most people really are running after the relationship. So I kind of do the relationship, bring you in, get you to love yourself, and then the relationship follows. But it really is, it all starts with you. And it all starts with you coming to a point of realizing, oh, I never actually needed anybody else. I don't actually need a relationship. I'm whole and complete exactly as I am. And only then will you kind of be in a place where you can even attract in healthy love and take a healthy journey, because then you're in no rush. You're going to ascertain people over time. You're going to really think, well, I'm having a great, my life is a party. Do I want to let someone into this? What if they trash my party? You're going to be far more sort of just whole and complete and having no need or lack or void. It's going to be a curiosity of, are you going to add to my party, or are you going to be a liability? You know? Whereas when you're desperate, you'll take a liability because you're desperate for any attention. So it absolutely is a journey of self-love. Now, self-abundance, absolutely. So because I'm in relationship, a lot of what I say is kind of in relationship, like it's interesting with me. Actually, one of my clients was saying, oh, I don't know if this man, like, I don't know if he's earning enough like money. And I know that sounds strange, but I want a guy who's more successful than me, blah, 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 blah. And I said to her, you know what, when you are more in your feminine polarity and it sends him more into his masculine, he will. And in my relationship, the more that I go into my feminine and do this, and my husband heals into his masculine, the more that he brings in, it's this, it does as a united, as a couple, it does have this incredible force of like that. But on an individual level, yes. So until I stepped into my empowerment, until I stepped into my feminine energy, I wasn't on my purpose in life. I wasn't on my mission. I hadn't found my service to the world. And it was in coming home to my authentic self, coming home to this empowered whole person, that I found who I uniquely was outside of my relationship. I found this whole, you know, my husband actually bought me a necklace with an E on it. It's at the jewels at the moment. And he said, it's because this represents that you have been coming into your own. This journey sent me into my own essence, where I truly didn't feel like I needed a relationship or anything like this. And I felt the confidence to step out in the world with my own offering and my own service. And within the first week of launching my business, I had 7 clients. And it's been an incredible journey. And the force behind what I'm doing is this magnetic feminine energy, which I purposely cultivate and use. And I know how to do that on my own. Absolutely. You know, one of the things I say is one of the most important parts about relationship is letting go of the attachment to it. And there have been times where I felt I have to fully kind of energetically let go, and that makes the love more pure. And so this kind of this letting go and this coming into your own essence, yeah, it creates this magnetic force. It puts you kind of into your full authentic self, and you're willing to show up in the world with your own message and to be seen. So one of the blocks to being in your feminine energy can be not trusting life, not wanting to be seen, and not being open to life. And you can imagine how that blocks abundance, right? Whereas if you're willing to embrace who you truly are, say what you really feel, come out with who you really are, and be seen with your message, people are attracted to authenticity. And feminine masculine energy is literally just about coming back to your authentic core and identifying, here's a blueprint of what it looks like when you're in your masculine, and what's blocking that is fear. That's helping us identify blocking that. And the more that you come back to your core, the more powerful you become. And yeah, it's undeniable watching my abundance journey, especially just the last couple of months. It's undeniable that the further on this journey you go, it's astounding me how money truly is energy, and feminine and masculine is energy, and polarity is energy. And things can happen much faster and more easily than you realize, and they don't have to make logical sense. We've had the strangest events happen, and this has happened more than a few times recently, which means that I invested a lot of money in setting up my business, and I invested, and we were net negative. Our financial position was net negative in the last few months. What we were net negative has now catapulted to triple that in the net positive, with incredible potential to, some of it has come through shares and investments and things, and the potential in them is kind of astronomical. And this, we could not have figured it out or planned it. This definitely came through a feminine energy way, which is like, it was changing your energetics and changing and seeing what shows up. So yeah, I really believe money is energy, abundance is energy, and polarity, sexual energy, feminine energy, it's all energy, and you can use it to bring in more abundance. Yeah. In ways that don't make sense, that you couldn't have figured out if you weren't just doing it on the energetic level. Yeah.
Now, speaking of energy, we talk about weight issues and weight loss here. We know that most body fat is storage of toxins. It's the body's way of saying, I don't know what to do with this right now. I'm going to just deposit it here and maybe deal with it later. So when you're talking energy, the negative energy that is trapped inside your body can often contribute to weight gain. Do you see that a lot of your clients, when they find the right relationship, they get that polarity, that not only their health improves, but that their weight stabilizes?
100%. And it goes the opposite way if it's a toxic relationship, right? One of the signs of like being in a toxic relationship is holding a lot of weight around your midriff, because that's a sign of high cortisol. And if you're in a dynamic that is very hot and cold, very volatile, it's very stressful, you're up in your head, you're on the, you have high cortisol, and you'll hold a lot of weight around your mid. And some people say that's actually a sign if someone's with a narcissist, their belly is like fully where they hold all their weight, because it's like that's the sign of the cortisol. Whereas holding weight in the other areas is often a sign of hormones, of the estrogen and testosterone, whereas it's that high. But yes, so whether it's with themselves or alone, this just alone, when they start healing this within themselves. So as I've mentioned, it's the letting go of a lot of fear. And also there's so much stored, like collectively, individually, there's so much trauma on the topic of sexuality, of chemistry, of connecting with one another in relationships. There's so much, I think all of us have had difficult relationships, difficult things happen that have scared us off relationships to a certain point. And, for the feminine getting to a point where she's willing to open again, where she's willing to feel safe again, because you are letting go of some stuff. What you do in your mind, it really comes through to your body. And I noticed this with me. Like, my whole body started refiguring and changing when I was shedding layers emotionally and mentally of trauma. And that's really what this journey is. It's actually relationships. Learning to love another and learning to receive love is actually like a journey of enlightenment. And to get there, you have to let go of a lot of fears and traumas. And when I say let go, I mean neutralize past events that are really stressing you out. And we do hold it in our body. And we do hold a lot of. It's got to be both approaches. I don't ever believe it's both approaches. It's mind, body, spirit. Okay, you can't just eat all the things and do the emotional healing. It's both, because when you do the emotional healing, you ought to come to a place of loving yourself more, and that place of loving yourself more ought to reflect in what you decide to put into your body as well. Like, you'll be like, maybe I'll feed my body like good fuel because I love myself now and I love my body. And but also relationships and the seeking of love and the wanting of love triggers us like nothing else. So you'll find that the person you're with will reflect to you your edges like nothing else, except for maybe your children and your partner. And so if you have the tools, if you don't have the tools, that's just going to be very painful. If you have the tools to, when you're triggered, to deal with that, then it becomes a really incredible healing journey. You will be triggered, and every time you're triggered, if you go in and release it, then yes, it'll just start healing you on this phenomenal level. And that totally has been my journey, and my body fully yo-yos depending on mentally where I'm at. If I am in the state of letting go, if I have surrendered, if I'm like, stuff everything, I let it all go, and I'm not feeling a strong attachment to things, my body just drops all this weight. If I am feeling more tense and worried and holding on to past resentments, past hurts, and I'm ruminating on them, and I can't let things go, my body puffs up. It's unbelievable. And I can literally go into a room, do a meditation, do some healing tools and whatever, and I can come out and my face will be drained, like my body, and I'll literally need to go to the wee. It's like my body just releases all this fluid. It's like, and I think if you look at it on a hormonal level, I probably just spent a lot of time in the parasympathetic nervous system. I've just gone into rest and relax. And our thoughts, our traumas often are keeping us in inner turmoil and are freaking us out and sending cortisol constantly through our body. So if we're constantly thinking about stuff that's scary or that's uncomfortable, then we're getting provoked. We're getting, our mind doesn't know the difference between like what's really happening and what's imagined. It just looks and it just thinks all that trauma is happening now. If we're reliving past events, it thinks it's happening over and over. And it's just sending more and more cortisol through our body. So the more we can emotionally release things, neutralize them so they're not haunting us, and so our mind is calm more often, the more our body is free to instead use the mother hormone pregnenolone for progesterone and estrogen and testosterone and keep those balanced rather than just sending them all to cortisol. There are so many layers to why the emotion affects the physical. And what I know for sure is that when people start mastering the emotions, they start losing weight, and it's twofold. It's because they're physically letting stuff go, they're feeling calmer inside, but it's also because programs that were causing them to have habits that weren't reflective of self-love neutralize. You might have a program, I realize a massive one for me, which was affecting both my abundance and my relationship with food, was scarcity, was this feeling of I was always going to run out. It's going to run out. It's going to run out. And so I felt like whenever there was food in front of me, I had to eat it all. If there was money, I had to spend it all, because I had this scarcity of like, everything's going to run out. Everybody's going to run out. And then I had that in relationship. Oh my God, he's going to leave me. It's going to end. I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose this person. It reflected everywhere. So the relationship reflects that back. You're attaching, you're freaking out, you're anxious. And then you heal that and you feel like everything is fine. Everything is unfolding perfectly. There is more than enough, and it affects all your areas. Yeah.
Thanks so much for that. That's absolutely brilliant advice.
Now, this has been episode 47. Elise will join us again in episode 48, where we continue this discussion talking about transcending toxic relationship cycles. For now, thank you for listening to episode 47. Go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.